So Anu, could you please do the invocation?
Yeah. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Thank you, Anu, and welcome back, everybody. I know that there is a slight confusion over the timing in India. When we change the time, that affects the India considerably. So it was 6 o'clock, now it's 7 o'clock. So that confusion is there. So hopefully it will be communicated properly. So we'll continue our discussion of chapter 4. If you remember when we started, I just mentioned that personally, I feel that the most difficult chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are 4 and 5. Difficult means initial understanding, but once you understand it, it is very clear. So that's why we are emphasizing clarity of these verses. So that's why sometimes we may have to cover only 2 verses. Typically, I try to cover 3 verses. So last week we covered 2 verses. And today also we are going to cover only 2 verses, because what we are seeing today is remarkable and very unique in the history of spiritual literature. So we wanted to understand that properly. And next week, verse 13, we can cover only 1 verse. After that also, a few more weeks, we can cover only 2 verses per week. So please forgive me and just be with me, because if you lose it, then it's hard. So if you have any questions, let's discuss and make sure that we have clarity. So please give more focus on clarity than anything else. That's just an opening. So we covered up to verse 10 in the previous session. So the first topic was the Vamsha Kathanam, or the teaching lineage. After giving that wonderful discourse on Karma Yoga, Krishna immediately realized that somebody may take it as Krishna's teaching. So Krishna wanted to clarify that this is not my teaching. This teaching was given to Sun God. Symbolically, it is said that Surya Bhagavan, Vivaswan, that is the term used. That means this is part of the creative intelligence, the intelligent order of the universe. Just like gravity was part of the intelligent order of the universe, these rules that governs the life of the human being, which is the yoga, was there. The teaching was there from time immemorial. And various seers have discovered this and handed this down from generation to generation. And eventually this teaching, right, when it goes from one generation to another generation, eventually it loses because of some decay that happens in the teaching lineage. So when such time comes, there will be an intelligent reinterpretation of the same truth that needs to happen. So that triggered a question from Arjuna. Arjuna was saying that you are my contemporary. How can you teach the sun god? To clarify that, Krishna said that there were many births for you. There were many births for me. But my birth is slightly different than yours, because my birth is an avatara and your birth is a karma caused by karma. You don't remember your birth, but I do remember all my birth. And then he spent some time explaining the idea of what is an avatara. So the idea of the avatara, we try to see that from a logical standpoint of view. Whenever there is an adjustment recurs in the universal order, the divine manifests itself. It need not be a human form, but to readjust the universal order, which is also part of that overall order. So the Bhagavan comes, and that is what is Avatara. And we discussed this, that the fact that this is not It cannot be proven. This is only a belief, but we go to the common rule. This is a beneficial belief, and this belief is not against the logic. It is beyond the logic, but is definitely not against the logic. So we talked about the Avatara, and in the last week we saw two verses. In one verse, Krishna said, now, how do you cross this suffering in this world? The suffering is due, means second chapter itself taught that the suffering is due to your ignorance, and how you can remove that ignorance. One way is to know yourself, and the second way is know the Bhagavan. Is that a contradictory? We spent last week a lot of time trying to differentiate that. If somebody knows Bhagavan, he knows himself. We took the example of the ocean and the wave, and we said that the person who knows ocean properly knows that the essence of the ocean is water, and the person who knows the wave properly also knows that the essence of the wave also is water. So it is easy to say, or it is logical to say, that the person who knows the wave knows water, and the person who knows the ocean also knows the water. So it is okay if you try to understand Ishvara, because when you understand Ishvara properly, you understand yourself. And when you understand yourself, you understand Ishvara. And then he said, how do you connect with that Ishvara? The whole essence of the Gita was captured in that next verse, which was verse 10. Vita raga bhaya prodha manmaya mam upashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta matbhavam agataha. He said, matbhavam agataha. You gain my stature or my state. So I requested you to underline the point. He didn't say that you come near me, or you come to my world, or you come nearer me. No, you become me. How? He said, means first thing is gaining emotional control. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Gaining emotional control. Freedom from raga dvesha. Freedom from emotions. Emotions are there, but they are not going to control me. That's it. So this, please do not interpret this as remove all the emotion. That Krishna didn't say that. Vita raga bhaya krodha. You want to have freedom from all the emotions. Anger is in me, but I am not controlled by anger. Sadness is in me, but I'm not controlled by sadness. That's all he said. Vita raga bhaya krodha. Then he said, man maya mam upashritaha. You are dedicating to me. You are surrendering to me. Ishvara arpana buddhi prasada buddhi. So karma yoga was completely captured in that two verses. And then he said, man maya, your mind is completely absorbed in me. So that is upasana yoga. And then bahavo jnana tapasa. Then if you follow the discipline of knowledge, the discipline of knowledge is going to take you matbhavam agataha. You reach the stature of myself. And I forgot to mention one word last week. It is bahavaha. He said, not just one. Many people has reached my state. So it's an assurance for all of us. The state of godhood, or the state of the highest spiritual status, is, don't think that it is not attainable. Krishna is saying that, yeah, a lot of people. Bahava, he said, the word we need to look, right? Bahavaha. He could have said that aneka. He didn't use the word aneka. The Shankaracharya tells. Aneka, if he had used, technically it can be two. Eka means one. Aneka means not one. It could be anything from two. But instead of emphasizing that multiple people have reached, he used bahavaha. Multiple people have reached me. So this is what we saw in the last class. Now we continue. So he said, remember the flow. He said, if you know Ishvara, if you understand Ishvara, you will reach my stage. Now, how do you worship this Ishvara? Do you want to worship Ishvara as Krishna? If you don't worship Krishna, are you going to heaven? Hell? In what form should I invoke Ishvara? What ritual I should follow? I don't know any Vedic ritual. I don't know how to worship you. Is that a problem? Just listen to next two verses. This is going to clarify a lot of superstitious beliefs that is happening in the religious space. Please note who said this. Krishna said this. So in the name of Krishna, when you preach these type of one way, one book, one God concept, that doesn't work. So please listen to the next two verses. Just a brief introduction. In the history of religion, this is the second statement that talks about the inclusiveness. A lot of other culture, means I'm not criticizing the other culture, I'm just making a statement of fact. Even in English, what is the word they use to accommodate multiple religions? Toleration. Think through that. What is tolerance? I'm tolerating you. I know that you are going to hell, but as a human being, I'm tolerating you. That's not what is being taught here. So in the human history, the first statement that talks about this inclusiveness is in the Rig Veda. Ekam sat vipra bahudha vadanti. Truth is one. The sages call that by different names. That is the first statement in the history. And in the second statement in the history is the next verse of the Bhagavad Gita. So this verse is very significant, very important. Please learn. And if somebody tells you that the inclusiveness started later, just point them to these two verses. The definition of inclusiveness has not improved anything further than this. So let's understand. So we talked about the summary and we are moving to the verse 11. So Anu, could you please chant?
Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stathaiva bhajamyaham mama vatmanuvattante manushyaः partha sarvashah.
So please learn this verse also. Remember, in the previous verse, we said, please by heart that verse. And this is another verse we need to. This is one of the most important verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Ye yatha mam prapatyante tan stataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. So let's try to understand the word meaning. And let's try to understand the deeper meaning. And let's try to understand that through a scientific lens also. So that's what we are going to do. These two verses are talking about that inclusive culture of Bharat. So the first one is ye. Ye means universal pronoun. In Sanskrit, it's not singular and ekavachanam, bahuvachanam. This is universal. Ye means whoever he be. It doesn't matter he's an Indian or a Hindu or nothing. Chandala doesn't matter. Whoever he be, then prapadyante, worship. Mam, me means Ishvara. Whoever worship Ishvara, yatha, how? In whatever way. Right? Whatever way you worship, aham, me, bhajami, bless them, tan, in the same way. Whoever worship, whoever in the world, a tribal, through a rain dance when he worship Ishvara, in whatever form he can conceive, I bless him through that form. And the second sentence, Partha, O Arjuna, Manushyaha, human being, Anuvartande, follow, Mama, my, Vatma path, Sarvashaha. Whatever path they take in their rituals or worship or invocation of the God, they are worshipping me as Ishvara. So, in whichever manner one approaches me, in that manner I bless him. Whosoever comes to me, in whatsoever form, I accept that. Famous quote by Vivekananda in the World's Parliament of Religion. You know from where it came. He always quote that, these words. In whatever manner one approaches me, in that manner I bless him. People follow my path in different ways. Oh Partha, even without my explanation, can you see a better definition of inclusiveness? If you don't call me in the name of Krishna, you are going to go to hell. That's not what he said here. This is, all of us should be really proud of this statement. So let's try to understand this a little bit more in deep. How Ishvara needs to be invoked. What path one should follow. What form. What type of devotion. For some person, it is a complex Vedic ritual. And for some person, it's a casual conversation. Even somebody asked me like 3 years back, I don't know Sanskrit. So how do I communicate with God? Honestly. So what language one should follow? You don't need to know Tamil. You don't need to know Sanskrit. Nothing. What you need is only a feeling. What inner commitment you need and what purpose. This is what it is. So Krishna tells, right? I am available to you as various resources in the world. Remember, the definition of Ishvara is the Nimitta Upadhana Karana. So all the resources in the world is Ishvara. All the laws in the nature is Ishvara. All the powers in the universe is Ishvara. All the possibilities in this world is Ishvara. In whatever form you invoke, I am going to appear. So don't think that there is a separate path for the materialist and spiritualist. The materialist also invokes something. A materialist may believe in money. So when he invokes that money through legitimate means, that potential of that success is Ishvara. And the law that governs the karma is Ishvara. So Krishna, Shankaracharya in his commentary make it very clear. Every legitimate action, as long as it is dharmic and as long as it is well-intended, it goes to that one Ishvara. So you cannot say that I'm a big spiritual person because I do puja 24/7. So this is very important. How the Ishvara is invoked. Means it doesn't matter whatever form. Stick to dharma. Those agnostics, they may not accept Ishvara. But don't they accept some values? Don't they accept the natural laws? And if you really look at that broad definition of Ishvara given by the Bhagavad Gita, that possibilities, that laws, and that function are nothing but Ishvara. So any invocation I do, I may not invoke God, but I might be invoking legitimate actions. Bertrand Russell, he was the greatest human being one of the greatest human beings. He never believed in a God, but he did a lot of good things because he believed in righteousness. He believed in values. So even though he may not call Ishvara as Ishvara, but he is invoking Ishvara and he will definitely get the blessing. And this is true for other religions also, right? So it doesn't matter whether you invoke Ishvara as Krishna or Rama or Shiva or Shakti. In whatever form you can relate to Ishvara. And how many Ishwaras are there? There is only one Ishwara. So imagine that there is a lamp, and that lamp is covered by a cloth, and there is a hole in a circular shape, and you can see that the light comes as a circle. And imagine that there is a hole in the form of a star. A star comes out. Imagine that there is a hole in the form of an animal. You can see the light as an animal. So imagine that there are 4 corners of that cloth. The first corner is a circle. The second corner is an animal. The third corner is a star. And the fourth corner is a square. So a Hindu, when he worships God, Ishvara, he relates to Ishvara as Shiva. A Christian, when he worships Ishvara, he worships Ishvara as Father in heaven. A Muslim, when he worships as Allah. And another person worship as Buddha state of consciousness. And a tribal worship as something else. So what Krishna is saying here is that who creates the form? You created the form. For whose convenience that form is given? For your convenience. Ishvara is only one. You can invoke him through the position of an Avatara, or you can invoke him through a position that you imagine. It doesn't matter. Who created the whole? You created the whole. What is the shape of that light? Nothing. But all the shapes are in that light. And all the shapes are that light. This is the idea. So if you invoke me as Rama, I bless you as Rama. If you invoke you as Krishna, I bless you as Krishna. If you invoke you as Jesus, I bless you in the form of Jesus. If you invoke me through an animal, I worship you. I bless you through an animal. Doesn't matter. Ishvara is only one. The forms and names are for your convenience. So the Hindu culture is so rich that it created multiple forms for your convenience. For some people, it is easy to relate with a motherly form of the Lord. Yes, you have the Shakti. Some people, like a friend, Krishna. Some people, it's like a lover. That is the Gopika Gita of the Bhagavata. And some people, it is like a high power Ishvara. So that is Shiva. Some people like a young person who is ever ready to support you, Muruga. It doesn't matter. Some forms may attract your attention. Some forms you might be able to relate more. I always heard South Indians saying that in North Indian temples, they do not get that feeling. And I heard North Indians saying that in South Indian temples, they do not get that feeling. Why? Their mind is so much attached to that particular way of worship. It doesn't matter. Every form of worship is valid. Every form of Ishvara is valid. Every worship is valid. So never ever condemn any worship. Shankaracharya gives another beautiful example. Imagine that somebody is climbing on the top of a mountain, to the top of the mountain. While you climb, the other path may not be visible to you. So if you see another person going, you may say that, no, you will not reach the destination. So please come to me. But the person who reached the top of the mountain, he knows that all these different paths takes to the top of the mountain. And you need to understand the tools and techniques, the culture, the way of worship, the way of you interact. It should be fit within your mental taste. A person who is not born to that culture. Like most of us are born in India. So we are exposed to that temple going ritualistic culture. And a kid born here, he may not relate to that. So there is no point in driving him through that same path. Right? So history has told us this many times. So Ishvara can be invoked in any forms you want. So in this verse, Krishna tells that every path is legitimate. Every form of worship is legitimate. Every invocation goes to Ishvara. Every blessing is coming from Ishvara. Only one constraint is your sincerity and conformance to dharma. Underline, that is very important. Shankara was very quick to underline that. Suppose somebody believes that killing other person in the name of God is a worship. No, that is not dharma. So conformance, your worship has to be conformed to the rules of dharma. Simple rule of dharma is what? What I do not want from others, don't do that to others. Do you want somebody to come and criticize you for your worship? Please don't do that. So this is the only rule. As long as you stick with the rules of dharma. Dharma means not religion. It is the common, basic common sense. How a human being should behave. As long as one is stick to that dharma, you are good. This is very important, and please keep this in mind. And Ishvara is available in various forms. I quoted another verse from the Gita because pretty much limited. I am available to you, Krishna, 15th chapter he tells. 15th chapter. He tells, I am available to you. Always. 15th chapter, there's brilliant verses there. As sunlight, I am available to you. As plants, I absorb the sunlight. As your digestive system, I absorb that energy in you. So I am available to you as various resources in the world. I am constantly blessing you through the universal laws. Imagine if the universe, for example, if the planetary laws are not there, we won't exist. The heart is always pumping. Just think about your own body for a second. Have you ever realized how complicated is the system? Just imagine your brain. Just imagine your whole systems, how it works. Precisely it works. When it stops working, you know that, right? If the insulin production goes low, you know that. If the blood pressure goes up, you know that. So how precisely I mean, every blessing, every law, because when you say law, please don't think that this is a religious law. Every law that governs your life is Ishvara. I'm blessing you in all the ways. And all the powers in the universe. I think that I run the car. From where you got the energy? Think for a moment. Can we produce energy? Yeah, we can extract the energy, human being. You may say that it came from the gasoline. From where the gas got the energy? Look through the scientific lens. The trees that fall down, it got transformed. From where that energy came from? Eventually, it goes back to the sun. Now you may say that, okay, I use hydroelectric power. Again, from where the energy came? You may say that I may use nuclear power. Can the scientists produce energy? He can extract it. That's it. So all the power in the world eventually comes from me. All the possibilities in the world. You say that, okay, you created this solar energy source. You said that you created the car, but who created the possibilities? It is Ishvara. So in whatever form you invoke, if you invoke me for health, by following the rules of health, I will bless you with health. If you invoke me by following the rules of wealth, I will bless you with wealth. If you invoke the creativity, I will bless you with creativity. If you seek knowledge, I am going to bless you with knowledge. You don't need to invoke me in Krishna or as Ishvara. You may call me as natural law of the universe, or you may call me in any name. But understand that intelligent order of the universe. Probably I haven't seen a better name for Ishvara than this intelligent order of the universe. This word was coined by Swami Dayananda. Brilliant. He loves this expression. The intelligent order of the universe is Ishvara. So all the resources is nothing but Ishvara. All the knowledge in the universe is nothing but Ishvara. And you can tap and invoke him through any legitimate dharmic way. And understand that all the rituals are symbolic representation of these things. That's it. So Ishvara is available in various forms, and through various means you can invoke him, and for various purpose you can invoke him. You may not be interested in self-realization. You may not be interested in Atma Jnana. You may not be interested in all those details, but you might be interested in health. So what you are doing, you are tapping a little bit of that Ishvara. That's it. You might be worshipping the Ishvara in the name of Christ or Father in heaven. Or you might be invoking in the name of Allah, or you might be invoking as Lord Shiva. It doesn't matter. Try to find that form which connects you, which resonates with you, and which is easily means easy connection. That's all. It's all your preference. I don't care. So there is a famous verse, Ishvara can be accessed through various paths or religions. There is a beautiful Sanskrit Subhashitam. It tells, Akashat patitam toyam yatha gacchati sagaram sarva deva namaskaram keshavam prati gacchati. Have you heard of this verse? Very popular verse. Akashat patitam toyam. That water coming from the sky. Yatha gacchati sagaram. Just like through different streams, eventually it end up in ocean. Sarva deva namaskaram. Whatever form of God you worship, keshavam prati gacchati, ultimately reaches to that one person. Beautiful Subhashita. So the paths are many, but the goal is the same. And the spiritual path is not a Procrustean bird. Have you heard of that story? It's a famous story in the Greek methodology. There is a bird, Procrustean bird. So per the story, right, he used to invite all the people passing by. If a person has more length, means if a person is bigger than his standard bird, what he used to do? He used to cut his feet. And if he is small, he used to stretch that person. That is why this usage came. Procrustean bird. That means one size fit for all. Imagine you are going to a clothing store and there is only one size. How is it possible? So spiritual path is not like that. All paths conforms to dharma, leads to one Ishvara. And please understand that this is not an accommodation, but a clear understanding. So I believe that it is the British historian, Nobel Prize winner, Arnold Toynbee. He wrote about this in his book. In early Rome, right, the Christianity was about to rise, right? So at that point of time, there was a senator there. His name was Ambrose. He was a pagan, and the church there didn't allow him to practice his faith. And eventually, all these pagans were silenced. So Arnold Toynbee tells later in this book, yes, they were able to silence a few people like Ambrose. But I'm sorry, actually, Ambrose is the bishop. He was the Catholic bishop. But there was another senator. I don't know his name. He was silenced, and all these different voices were stopped. But he tells, even this, they could silence the truth for some period of time, but not forever. Eventually, you could see that in India and now in the world, you can see so many of these thoughts, this inclusiveness, accepting all the faith as true, is thriving. So he clearly calls out India. Sir Arnold Toynbee calls out India very clearly, which talks about this truth. So you should be proud of it, because this is where the origin of all the inclusiveness has come from. Couple of more examples. And after that, you can see, if you look at the history of Christianity in Europe, you could see they just destroyed all the pagan faiths, all the different types of faiths in almost all parts of the world. This is not a criticism. I'm just talking about the history. If you really look at Greece, Greece once was a center of a great culture. But now if you go to Greece, you could see only a few buildings. Almost all the ancient cultures were wiped out. Why? Because Edward Gibbon, he tells this in his book, Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, which is a beautiful book. It's a great read if you love history, how the Romans fall down. He tells, initially in Rome, there were multiple faiths. The common people believed that each of these religions were true. But the philosophers believed that everything is false. And the state encouraged people to follow these different religious faiths, because they become religious and they do not get involved into the state affairs. That's not the type of religious belief you want. What you want is something like what Swami Vivekananda said. In one of his lectures in America, he said, typically, if somebody is religious, he will be a fanatic. Suppose somebody is a hardcore religious person. He looks down the materialists. He looks down the agnostics. He looks down the people of other faiths. On the other hand, if you are an agnostic, if you are not religious, you become too liberal. But in the case of Sanatana Dharma, or in the case of vision of Gita or the Vedas, what it says, I accept your religion. I respect your religion, not because I'm a liberal, but I'm religious. The more religious I am, accept your faith, accept your thought. Isn't this a great idea? I'm deeply religious. I look at Mahatma Gandhi. That's a living example in this modern world. I am religious. Therefore, I can accept you. It's not like when I'm religious, I'm getting fanatic and throw the other person. That's not the case. So this is very important idea. And this we need to keep in mind. And we don't want to be tolerant, but we want to accept. And that acceptance is not merely an accommodation. This acceptance is not an accommodation, but this acceptance is through a clear understanding of who the Ishvara is. And all the prayers in the world, it doesn't matter. Really, different religions have different forms of prayers. And no form is more greater than the other. A tribal, when he goes to a tribal prayer, that is nothing less than a complicated Vedic ritual or a complicated ceremony in a church. Regardless of the language, don't think that Sanskrit is superior. Not at all. Every language is fine. Regardless of the language used to invoke the higher, Ishvara is invoked. A tribal prayer is as much valid as a complicated Vedic ritual. And Shankara, in his commentary, tells a prayer is a feeling expressed in a certain form, in a certain language. And as long as that feeling is there, Ishvara understands that. So this answers the question whether we need to know Sanskrit. Sanskrit is good for a different purpose. Tamil is good for a different purpose. English is good for a different purpose. Language is not a barrier to pray. And if you understand this, you don't need a third party between you and Ishvara also. You can directly transact with him. So this is the stage we need to come to. Ishvara is beyond all religions and all the prayers. So please understand the depth and the breadth of this verse. This is very unique to our culture. And as I said, please remember this one sentence. I accept other faith because I am religious. That can be seen only in this culture. But fortunately, now this thought is being developed. The new Pope, he's so good. He had accepted some of these wrongdoings of the past. And he said, like, there are truth outside of religion. So it's really encouraging to see that this thought is getting resonated in every culture. And I'm sure sometimes or the other, this universal acceptance will come. And you don't need to go and save humanity, because nobody is going to hell. Just try to save yourself. That's all. So we don't need an external saviors to save us. And we don't have the right to save others. Everybody is good. Every prayer is good. And this is what it is. And what we want is not tolerance. I don't want somebody to tolerate me knowing that I am false. I just want that acceptance. And I get that by giving that acceptance. Any comments? Questions? We can talk at 9:30, but any comments? Last but not least, people even who are not connected to a religion are also blessed. You can read Valmiki Ramayana. In the Rama Rajya, there's a beautiful verse. So Rama, when he was ruling the country, one conversation he had with Bharata, who was reporting, okay, this state is doing good, the farmers are doing good, The traders are doing good. Rama said before that, how is the Charvakas doing? Are they protected? Are they safe? Do they have the freedom? Bharata said yes. So that even that much accommodation is there in our culture. Any comments? Otherwise, we'll go to the next verse. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. Anu, could you please chant?
काङ्क्षन्तः कर्मणां सिद्धिं यजन्त इह देवताः क्षिप्रं हि मानुषे लोके सिद्धिर्भवति कर्मजा.
So now the question is, if Ishvara can be worshipped, why a lot of people are not worshipping Ishvara? That is brilliantly answered in this verse. So Kit said, Kamchamda karmanam siddhim yajanda iha devataha Chipram hi manushe loke siddhir bhavati karmajaha. So the first sentence is Kamchamta, meaning desiring, siddhim, karmanam siddhim. So desiring the results of actions. Where? In this world. So iha. De yajante devata. So Krishna tells a lot of people worship the devatas. Why? Because they are interested in a lot of small things in this world. And then he said, manushe loki, because in the human being, siddhim karmaja bhavatihi chipram. You get the immediate results. So if you simply think about this, let's give the full meaning and then we go to the detailed meaning. So most of the people in this world, God is their secondary priority. So think about this. For most of the people, what is the role of God in their life? Honestly, tell me. Anybody? It's a support system. I want fame. I want name. I want health. I want to get rid of diseases. I want to avoid accident. I want to be happy, contented. So I use various tools to protect myself. And one such means is God. Transactional type of relationship. God is not the end by itself, but God is only a means to an end. I want money. I want professional success. So I strike a contract with God. I'm not saying that this is bad, right? I'm just saying that this is the immediate priority. Most of the people are not cared about self-realization or moksha or anything like that. They are after artha and kama. Artha means security. Security means they think that they are insecure because they do not have money, they do not have health, they do not have X, Y, or Z. So they feel insecure and they're trying to acquire that security. And God becomes a means, another means to get that security. And once you get the security, it is kamaha, like pleasure. I want happiness. I want pleasantful event. So God becomes a means. And Krishna said that that's okay. And such people will invoke deities. So if I want money, what exactly I invoke? Devatas means it is the power centers or functional rule. So when you think about the government is one entity. But that particular division which handles the tax is the IRS. And those who investigates the crime becomes FBI or police, like that. So based upon the function, you can name a particular function. So devatas means what? the functional representation of that universal intelligence. So that potential which gives you money is known as Lakshmi or Kubera. Right? So there are deities for every functions. It's a symbolic representation. So if I'm only interested in money, I invoke Goddess Lakshmi. I invoke Goddess Lakshmi for what? Only for money. That is my goal. For Vidya, I invoke Saraswati. Like that, there are so many invocations. And this is a symbolic representation only. So Shankaracharya tells, whenever you invoke anything in the material world, you may call, means the language of religion tells that you are invoking a deity. For example, suppose you are too much interested in finance, making money, you are investing a lot. In the material world, you are following, what is your ritual? You are studying the rules of the investment and you are putting that in. And if you convert that and look through that a religious lens, you can say that you are a Lakshmi Upasaka. Most of the people worship these type of deities because Chipram hi manushe logi, in this world, what they means kamshyanda karmanam siddhim. They want small results. That is their focus. So that is why they invoke the other deities. So let's see that. The question is why most of the people are interested in the higher spiritual developments. See, he said, lot of people have realized my state, but that they are only a minority. Most of the people are not seeking the Ishvara. Most of the people, their end destination is not Ishvara or the higher. For them, Ishvara is only a means. So their interest is in the material world. So Krishna tells, do I ignore that people? No. If they follow their rules, I bless them and give them that. For example, suppose somebody is invoking health. What is the ritual there? Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta jeshtasya karmasu, yukta sopnavabodhasya. If you take appropriate food, appropriate exercise, appropriate recreation, appropriate sleep, you will be blessed. So your ritual is what? It is an offering towards that deity. You would see this later in this chapter. When you eat, you are doing a yajna. Everything you do in the life is an yajna. But the goal of that yajna may not be the ultimate goal. Some of that goal might be to gain a health or gain some wealth or to gain some happiness. That is fine. You are invoking that deity and that deity is nothing but my part. And I bless you with that result. That's all. So he tells how to invoke Ishvara is our choice. All the resources in the world, like again, I'm quoting the 15th chapter. All the laws, all the powers, all the possibilities are nothing but Ishvara. So invoking what part of Ishvara is our choice. I do not want to know you completely. I just want money. Okay, you invoke money. And tam niyamam. In the 7th chapter, Krishna said, whatever you want to invoke, you have to follow the rules of that invocation. And if you follow that rules of invocation, according to the law of karma, you will get the result for sure. So Ishvara doesn't deny anything, right? It doesn't matter. So it is our choice what we want to invoke. We can just limit ourselves to this material world. That's also fine. So if a person chooses to have only so much within the Ishvara's creation, you will get that. That's it. So those who are interested in the higher possibilities of life, they will be blessed with spiritual knowledge. Those who invoke the worldly object, they will get it. This is the rule. So everybody is accommodated. And whether they know it or not, even a materialist, they are in that Ishvara's path. They may not call Ishvara as Ishvara. They may call him as the natural law of the universe. That's all. So this is a great teaching again. So material objects, those who seek material objects, seeks Ishvara in the form of deities or devatas. And devatas are nothing but productive potential of the universe. Productive potential. That's a beautiful definition given by Swami Chinmayananda. So if you want wealth, you are invoking the productive potential of wealth. Happiness, power, health, everything is their own devata. And that is why how many devatas we have in our tradition? Anybody knows? 330 million. Every possibility was named after a devata. And that is the definition of the devata. And devata are nothing but a functional representation of the total Ishvara. So each devata, IRS is nothing but government, just like that. So all the devatas are a subset of the Ishvara. And there is nothing wrong in seeking the worldly objects. Again, as long as the constraint is met. And what is the constraint? You cannot violate the dharma. As long as you are following that rule, there is nothing wrong in seeking the material objects. So why people are not seeking these highest possibilities of life? Because my priority is the immediate results. I'll say that after retirement, I will study Gita. My immediate priority is the stock value. That's it. So to gain that, instead of seeking Brahman, the highest reality, they go and seek the wealth devata or the health devata or whatever it is. The idea is here. The people want immediate and material results. And there is nothing wrong in that. And there is nothing wrong in seeking these material results. So with that, I believe we covered those two verses. The summary is Ishvara can be accessed through different paths and religion. All the worships, whatever way you invoke, it is the same result, same Ishvara. Those who want immediate results, they seek Devata, and the Devatas are nothing but Ishvara. It's a subset of the Ishvara. So that's what it is. My request is, if you learn that one verse again, verse 11, that would be great. So before we stop, Anu, if you could chant that verse 11, because that verse, if everybody can by heart, this is such an important verse.
Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam stathaiva bhajamyaham mamavatmanuvattante manushyaः partha sarvashah.
Excellent. So we will conclude with the prayer and then we can open up for the Q&A. So I know one more time if you could chant the Purnamada.
Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.